Hey guys, just waiting for everybody to log on. So, let me know you guys are here. Go ahead and make a post. Let's see. Do. Looks like we've got one person in there. Hey guys, please introduce yourself in the chat. As soon as we get some numbers up here, I wanted to make sure that everybody had enough information. Hello, Stephanie. If you have anybody else that you know that has been dealing with CPS or anything to do with children, so on and so forth, uh, just make sure that you invite them here. We're going to try and get some numbers up here. I'm a little late getting started, but we're going to wait and get some of the people on here. I just made a post on Facebook that we are going live, and this is very important. And yes, this is enough to end CPS in every state. It's pretty big. So we've done lots of research, um, both myself, Dallas, and several others, to go through this. I know a lot of us have been forced into it because of lies, manipulations, and basically just violation of constitutional rights. So you'll have to forgive me. I'm a little new to this. Let's see. That's not what I want here. I'll have to get with Dallas on this to try and figure out how to share lives or do invites. Let's see. They waited to the last minute to give me access to this platform, so not fun times. Look around here. How are you doing this evening, Miss Stephanie? Awesome, awesome. Well, we're trying to get some numbers up. Hey there, we have Michael Jennifer Branson. Hello, has just joined. We're just getting started. We haven't moved forward yet. We're oh, Jennifer only. Gotcha. Okay. So we're just waiting. I was a little late getting on. YouTube was a little late giving us permission to actually take and get in on some of this stuff. We definitely want to spread the word about what we have. So 2015. What state did that go through, Jennifer? Really? Oh, you're gonna love this. Did you have a Sullivan County? Okay. So see, we're actually in the we're in the same state, Jennifer. I'm over just south of Knoxville. So we're getting some things together. Ah, kind of crazy over there in Sullivan County too. I've heard some stories. So listen, guys, just to get you started, some of this of what we're doing that we've actually collided, and believe it or not, I was really hoping that we're going to get a pretty good turnout. I believe. Ah, yep, Judge Kennedy. Okay. Um, let me see. I was hoping. I got a message from Dallas. He says he should be um, should be joining. I believe us this evening. Let me see. But what we're talking about is going to effectively change the nation. What we've done, or a lot of it, I know Dallas is going to say, yeah, I did a lot of the work. Um, I actually consider, see, one thing public education doesn't teach you is how to be what's called autodidact, and that is the ability to take and learn for yourselves and comprehend things. So I do that with a combination. I'm also a speed reader, which my wife goes nuts because she gives me 15 minutes with a book and I've got it done, and she loves to read, her novels. Um, that way I stay on color with her. But I've applied those God-given skills basically just to what we were going through and everybody else has been going through. And what we ended up finding is we were looking through Tennessee, like Tennessee's policies and procedures. If you'll notice, Jennifer, in their policies and procedures handbook, do you have one with you? And Stephanie, what state are you from? Pennsylvania. Okay. Yes, I've gone. Here's the thing, I have gone through all 50 states, the policies and procedures for the state that has the state seal on everything. And Stephanie, we're going to get to that handbook. We have found their policies and procedures basically, and every state has a different way of doing it. Um, some of the things I want to take at sure is a lot of this is follow the money. And what we ended up finding out was due to the fact of the Chevron case, that anybody that was considered was professional was able to make their own decisions or right what basically choose what laws and stuff they could follow and didn't pertain to them because they were the experts in the field. Well, CPS found this out and they ran with it. We are professionals when it comes to children being abused. Okay. Went right before Congress on it, literally. Basically saying we want more funds. We want to be able to do more and more. Got you, Jennifer. Okay. So the thing is that we have on this here is what we've done is through their policies and procedures handbook. And what we've done is we've looked it down and categorized it in two major areas. One, it's a Fourth Amendment violation, and 14th of entering your home without a warrant. Now, they're not going to tell you this, but there's actually what's called federal case law. Now, federal case law takes and tells you basically how the state should act or react when it comes to constitutional rights. Well, this particular case law, which we're going to put this all together with you guys or for you guys, and what it does with this case law says, and this was with a police officer and a CPS worker, and this case law has been on there for a long time. It says if you enter a home, you must have a warrant every time you enter the home. It must be filled out properly. It must be from a firsthand experience, which if a CPS worker says that, well, we got a report and that qualifies. No, there's already federal case law on that. An anonymous report is not enough for them to get a warrant to enter your home. They have lied to you and your judge has committed a felony by signing that warrant. And it must come from an Article 1 or Article 3 court. Now, those are mandatory reporters. Now, if she called and she made the complaint and signed the affidavit that something had happened, then that's different. If it was done anonymously or through their anonymous tip line, not willing to sign or come forward on it, I mean, I get you may have suspicions, but unless you absolutely know for sure it came from that or they told you that. Exactly. So it's an anonymous report. So no, even if it's a teacher, the person, here's the reason why. Because that officer that goes for that warrant has to say, I have a witness that has a sworn statement. That is your right to get those things for a gag us. They can't gag you. No, you have a right to face your accuser is what it comes down to. And anonymous is not enough to get a warrant. It is not. Every federal court will do this. The problem is they have confused everybody to stay in the state courts when their rights are being violated. What we're trying to do is, let me explain this. So there's two parts to this that people can get involved. Okay, multiple different facets, but multiple different parts, and it applies to just everybody, which is why it's so important. One, if you take and you have a warrant that was an illegal warrant that was entered, that's a constitutional rights violation. It doesn't come from this court and this court. Of course, your lawyers are not going to tell you this because they're used to business as usual. This is just the way things work. Why? Because state courts work off of statutes and codes, and the federal courts deal with law. That's why you may hear a judge in your case turn around and say, well, we don't deal with constitutional matters in this case. You're correct. They do not. That is in federal court. But they have to abide by those federal rulings when it comes down to constitutional rights, including the way that their procedures are done and how warrants are done and so on and so forth. That is not under state rights. That is under federal rights to get that. Okay, so you've got, let me get through this. Second part of that case, they entered the house illegally, even using a police officer. Now, then they began to question the children on private property where they were residing. Now, there's a difference between public and private. There's a big difference. This is private property. The judge then therefore said that questioning children or someone on their private property is a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights and is considered seizure under the Fourth Amendment. Big difference. How many times people have been questioned, or we've seen the videos on it doesn't matter. Your CASA office, this goes for all law enforcement or government officials. That's the law for your rights. Nobody has the rights to take and ever take your constitutional rights. That is the point. Yes. And they hide this from you. Now, I'm going to give you a real good one. Just June of this year, there is a case called SEC versus, what was it? I'm going to draw a blank on it now. I think I've posted it a couple on there, but it'll come to me here in a minute. Anyway, it just happened in 2016. And what this case law says, Jarsky, SEC versus Jarsky, okay, back in June. Check this out. You're going to love this. Because of that Jarsky decision, yes, 2024, and it's retroactive. If you've ever had a child custody case or a child support case, it requires a jury under the Seventh Amendment, which means they have violated your constitutional rights by giving you a trial just in front of a judge and not in front of a jury. In a civil case, specifically a civil case, not a criminal. This deals with civil, which means every single one of you that have gone just before a judge or magistrate has committed a constitutional crime. The court's not going to do nothing. Who do you think they report to? The state. The state. Here's the thing. The evidence we have, it is now in the hands on its way for one. We have an FBI contact as well as DOJ. We're turning that stuff over. 7th, not 17th Amendment. We're turning that over to Army CID. Anybody in the room know why Army CID is involved? Yeah, if you deal with anybody in the state, it ain't going to do jack, Jennifer. Okay. There's one question. What's Army CID? Okay. Here's one. You ever heard of NCIS? I bet you have, because there's a TV show all about it, which is what? Naval Criminal Investigative Services, right? It's law enforcement for the Navy and for the Marines. Army CID is basically the same thing. I know you put them on notice. We're going to tell you what this is about, girl. Hold on one second here. Army CID is the only and is the highest court in the land. They are the only court that will ever hear a charge of treason. The federal courts do not have treason courts. That is left up to a military tribunal, which is done in the field. They call it the Kraken. So you'll hear terms in political speeches of release the Kraken. They're talking about military tribunals. Those are for treason. The reason we turned it over to them was because we have treason of all 50 states. And they put it in their policies and procedures because they pay using your state tax dollars and federal funds to train state employees and or subcontractors to violate your constitutional rights. Now, going back to that other case for the 4th and 14th, let me tell you what this judge said. Without a warrant or an emergency, which must be documented and verified, it's sedition too. You got it. All 50 states. Because you go in there and you don't have an emergency, and this judge lists what is quantified as an emergency, which all 50 states must follow. Anything else is not an emergency, including the need to do an investigation in your house. Not a liable thing. Nope. Where's your first-hand witness that's signed on here, or you have an affidavit of a sworn statement? Don't have it. Let me tell you what this judge said. Everything else is coercion. Illegal. Anything else to get in your house is coercion. Them knocking on the door, here, I come here and I need to come into your home and do this, 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 and that, requires a warrant every single time. Notice the word I said, every single time. For every time they enter your home, they are required to have a warrant or a specific court order. It's not open-ended. It's to one visit by law. Sedition means you're trying to undermine the country or the Constitution. You're doing activities that take and do that. That is correct. What you're talking about is your state has turned its back on the Constitution to steal money and enslave its people, to train its people to violate your constitutional rights. And guess what? The stuff that we have, they printed it in every single state in their policies and procedures and handbooks. In Tennessee, it says, we have a right to talk to your children without parental rights. Constitution and case law says, no, you don't, but you put it in there. Every time you enter the home, you got it, Jennifer, 6 and 7. We've been working with Dallas on this as well as a federal attorney. This thing's got legs on it enough to go. Anybody ever heard of the Hague or World Court for crimes against humanity? Yeah, we're sending the evidence there as well. But what we need from the people or from you guys is to take and get your stories together real simple. And it's going to be as simple as this, guys. It's going to be your name at the top, right here, your name, your county and state, the names of the people involved, including your CPS worker, your judge, anybody else that is in this. Now, follow me here. As well, no, but it's still crimes against humanity. So it ain't the fact that the Hague won't get involved, but crimes against humanity, that's a world court thing, and we are part of that court. So yes, it will go before that court because of the crimes of human trafficking. This is human trafficking, people. That's the point. We need the people to speak up. The problem is we have the evidence. The U.S. attorney and everybody else has told us we have the evidence. We need the victims to show that the crimes were done. That's why this needs to spread in all 50 states. To get this, one, it needs to go to a specific special agent at the FBI, which I have his email address. And when we go public, Dallas is working with me too. We're going to do a bunch of stuff tomorrow. Look for the release. We're giving you guys the early release. Whoever's here is going to get the early release of the evidence. And what it is their policy and procedure handbooks that are highlighted, showing you where the crimes occur, is what we're doing for treason and sedition. Your state government and everything else. Now, here's the beautiful thing. They've been doing it for over 4 years. Now, anybody want to guess what that means? I'll give you a minute. Matter of fact, I'll finish writing this out and give you a thing. What does that mean if your state is actively committing treason and sedition for over 4 years? What would that affect? That would be huge news. Hey, that's what we got. A few things here and there. Folks, what happens every 4 years? An election. If a state is actively involved in treason and sedition, they can't legally cast, and still can't even this election cycle. They can't legally cast electoral votes. That means your sitting executive office doesn't exist. Muted? Can you hear me? Okay, we'll go over it again. If your state is committing treason and sedition, you cannot legally validate your electoral college votes to vote for president. Your sitting executive office person now is there illegally. And this is hard evidence. Crimes of RICO. Oh, we're getting to all of that, everybody. That's why this needs to take in. Trust me, we're going to show you this. Your name, your county at the top, the names of the people involved. Okay. That's your judges, everybody else, their names, titles, everything else. A quick summary now. And then you're going to go down to crimes. We're not going to pick through every crime. We are limited to, I have a 4th Amendment, 14th Amendment by the illegal entry with no warrant or anything, or a 7th Amendment violation of due process because I didn't have a trial by a jury. If multiple of these, I'm not sure whether or not it is being recorded. Not sure. Like I said, I'm new to the platform. This one had the unlimited model on it. I'll bear with me, if you will. But we're going to be doing a lot of snippets with Dallas tomorrow. I'm getting with Dallas. And we are going to put a lot of stuff and cut up and do a long thing. Trust me, guys. The point is this: when we say go, and Dallas is going to make this public, you're going to get a head start to get it to your people and other people you know that are dealing with CPS and say, hold on to this, because this needs to go. Because as of tomorrow, let's put it this way, as of today, the evidence is now in the hands of Army CID. Army CID deals with two things. It deals with treason, and when treason happens of all 50 states, that part of the Constitution kicks in to where, ladies and gentlemen, we will be under martial law, because no state can operate, even local county, because all of it is corrupt and done illegally. That includes all their convictions have to be overturned, including the murder convictions, because of the crimes, depending on how far back we can prove they have been committing treason and sedition. Now, let me explain something. This is the only time in the Constitution that the United States military can be fully armed and on U.S. soil, because we have been put under attack. Yes, it's enough evidence to bring them in for martial law. That's why it went to Army CID, because they are the only ones. When that happens, the Kraken, the person that, the office of Army CID, that is the only person that prosecutes people. And let me make this clear. Your prosecution will not happen on U.S. soil. And when you commit treason under the rules of military conduct, you have no constitutional rights. You are stripped of them. 100%. They can house you here on U.S. soil, but your actual trial will not be on U.S. soil. It will be at Gitmo. A lot of people are seeing this going down. You have lawyers flipping out over, they call them sovereign citizens, because they don't want people to know the truth. Well, anybody that ever applied for any of that or says, well, that doesn't exist, you're right, a sovereign citizen doesn't. Because everything, you look up something in a dictionary, is not the same as what they do in the court. They have their own dictionary with different meanings. It's called Black's Law Dictionary. When you understand they're using different words with different terms, then every day, not going to work, because that's what they're using, is a whole different language. So you look those two words up, sovereign and citizen, they're two different things. Is there such a thing as a sovereign national? Yes. Yes, there is. Because whether you know it or not, by the time you turned 18, you became an adult. And you got sucked into the system and you volunteered for it. Now, a lot of people say, I didn't volunteer for it. Yeah, you did. When you got a driver's license. When you filled out a W-2 form. You say, I'm participating in this program, whether you knew it or not. That's how they got a hold of you. How do they track you? Through your social security number. No, this is proven. I have a federal, one of the best we're working with one of the top 10 best constitutional attorneys in the nation. This is going to be a $1 trillion, if not more, class action lawsuit against all states. And it's going to have to go before SCOTUS. Literally. That's the only people that can legally do it. Because no person in the nation will be affected. You're either on one side of the fence or the other. Now, what we're going to do for the people that are here is I'm going to give you an email address. And this is Barbara asked for 500. Listen, guys, our bottom line for all of this is nothing more than this has been an attack on the family and our children. There's certain speculations that this has stemmed from, some people know, if you know some military history, Operation Paperclip, where they took a lot of the people that had that ideology under Hitler in Germany and brought them over as scientists and teachers and so on and so forth. Believe whatever you want. You can call it the deep state, the dark state, the second government. I've heard so many different things. But listen, it all comes down to money and power. And you guys are out there, we shouldn't live like this. Listen, when you start hearing stories of how they take children, here's a beautiful one. And Tennessee's got this one. This one's great. How they look so good in the public eye. They convince you, or they coax you to take and have you sign away, sign this voluntary plan. If not, we'll take your kids. We'll do this. We'll do that. They're threatening. They're intimidating. Can you give your kids some of your kids are in danger? We don't want them to go in this. Just sign it over. Well, here's the thing that they don't tell you, and they don't. because then they go behind your back and go to the ADA. And like in the state of Tennessee, child abandonment is a Class C felony. So then CPS lawyer goes over and goes, well, Your Honor, now we need full control of the children. She took and abandoned her children. She has a criminal case against her. See how the DA works together with CPS to make money? Now they got you double dipping in both courts, and we have the evidence of it. And it's happened to several people. Well, now I'm going to touch on this, and this comes from experience. One, my wife has a degree in psychology and does a lot of her own. She's autodidact too. So she has continued her education as well as with life skills. They're all, yes. And this is the whole thing. That's why this is RICO, because we can connect the dots with these cases. That's what we need. We need that evidence to show them and everything that this is a RICO and that everybody's been working together. The state is even putting their handbooks and their policies and procedures to violate constitutional rights. So it starts at the state level. Then it just filters down into everybody. So there's just a lot of stuff that's out there that people they're going to hide it from you. Why? Because it makes money. I know a lot of times you'll hear this this big question or whatever that you've got that you don't get where they're coming from or anything else. I had a psychology, somebody that was, I've been talking to professors from major universities and so on and so forth. It's been so helpful to help educate of just some serious questions from their expertise. There was one that was a master's, was getting their master's. Okay. I think it was like their second master's in psychology. And now they're having to warn students to watch it where they research and so on and so forth on the internet, because you'll see those sites above and in their bibliographies, even the professors are doing it. This is messed up. If it says .gov or .edu, it's an approved source. But understanding psychology is a soft science. It's generalization, but no two people are the same. You can't categorize them the same. So they're trying to get you with some of the goofiest stuff that now at the top it actually says of those things approved by the U.S. government or U.S. government approved at the top of it. So now your government is involved in psychology of what is approved and what's not approved for psychology. Whoa. Now you're getting into people's heads. I know that psych evals are illegal. Oh, they do. They ain't doing psych evals now. They've changed that now to psychosexual evals. They've changed the wording on it. And I just had a person that was talking to me just the other day on this. It was so freaking crazy for this psychosexual thing that they turned around and he told me one of the questions. I says, well, what's one of the questions? He says, when you hear voices, can you do something to make those voices be quieter or disappear? And it was a yes or no answer. So either way, you're screwed, because you're saying you either hear voices or you can't control the voices by just answering the question. Pretty messed up. My dogs are whining. Give me a second. Come on. Sorry, guys. It's been raining here in Tennessee like cats and dogs, so it's been muddy out, and they've been penned up most of the day because it's so nasty. The one that killed me the most, and I know it's not one place. There's the problem. That's what hurts me. Going through this has been hell. seeing the things, the evil that you've seen. You'll see every page that you've seen. I've highlighted every bit of it, all 50 states. And the one that kills me the most is when I had a nurse come up and say, you know, I made a complaint today, or tried to make a complaint with one of my bosses, because they were taking a baby from a new mother, low income, you know, cute kid. And they tested her and the baby after she had given birth, and she popped positive. And of course, the spin on that is, oh, we're taking children away from drug infested mothers. So the nurse spoke up and says, wait a minute, I gave her an epidural. Part of the ingredients of that epidural are those things she tested positive for. And said she had another nurse tell her that's okay, that child will be better off in the system with the family that could treat them better. You had a nurse or somebody that is through fucking nursing school or somebody else take one look at somebody and make a fucking decision on that child's life right then and there. But yet you go into some of the hospitals and everything else, and CPS is there, you know, bringing little trays and everything for all the little nurses, you know, like they're able to do, you know, lobby in Congress. It just made me sick to my stomach. These are kids, babies, and those mothers. Every time I've never seen my child in 6 years, 7 years, all because of this. Lauren, I would say, yeah. And that, here's the other thing, Lauren, if you challenged it in a federal court, it has to come from a certified lab, which is why they were sneaking the babies out, because that would be the biggest thing they would contest, is it's done by the hospital itself while they're in there. Babies. That's how they get the big money. Listen, all these organizations, even religious organizations, are in on this stuff. Why? Because that's a boys' home. You ever notice every religion, and I hate to say this, every religion, starting from the Catholics to the Lutherans to the Baptists, everything, and you think I'm lying? Google it. There is a Baptist or anything, some religion's home for boys or this or that in between, which supports those religious systems. And I'm sorry. Faith-based sober home. Yeah, they get, you know why? Government's cut a deal with them. That's 501c, baby. That's free money. That's like getting donations and everything. Yeah, I've read that one too. But see, here's the thing. Everybody has been beating their head that we're going to talk to is they keep fighting this in a state court. My point is everybody gets their name on this, now has a jurisdiction to file. Listen, I'm not after this for money or anything else. I've got my own thing. I'm getting ready to take them to the cleaners, and they're screwed bad. But let me tell you something. This is for you guys to do it, because you realize for every person we get to speak up and share this information with, they won't understand the evidence without me explaining to you by word of mouth and talking to people. This is why this is Power to the People, and why it's about we the people, because we have the information. The idea is to share this with as many people. Hey, this is going on and you need to get your story out. One, go public with it as you can. Don't go through all the emotion, because most people will shut that off. You want to deal with the legalities of it, of how your rights were done. That's where they get you. I don't know if it's being recorded or not. I don't know if it does it automatically or not. I'm still new to this platform, so a lot of this we're just going to share, and that's what a lot of this has been about, is giving you guys the tools to say, file with, get your story to this FBI agent that's leading this main case. Okay, get your complaint, your filing complaint. It's happened to me in Texas. It's happened to me in Oklahoma. And the more people we get to load him up, and then we're going to have you double email it, send it also to us. Why? Because I'm just going to turn over basically the evidence for get in the cage. Somebody let dogs in. Go on, cage. No, get in yours. No. Sorry about that. Okay, with the stories, we are going to take and work with Dallas. I've been working with Dallas through a lot of this. Yeah, your RITSA review, that's going to be putting them on notice for the federal stuff. Start doing a lot of that stuff there. But a lot of this is getting your evidence to an FBI agent. And here's the thing. Either Dallas and I were talking about this, one of two things, either coming up with the forms for everybody to fill and file on their own to go into a federal courtroom, and you literally sue them. You put them in a civil case. But if you've turned over enough evidence and say, hey, I'm part of this case and this is here, here, and here, I made the complaint. Oh, they were interested, but let's understand this. This is something different. They have to have fraud. FBI only deals with contracts and everything else. When you're talking about treason and sedition, constitutional matters, that's a military matter automatically. The problem is everybody's going to the wrong court and going to the wrong authority with their complaints. When you take and realize that these crimes have been committed, and then you have the evidence of the crimes, well, they've obtained money, federal money and state money, basically taxpayer money, illegally to do these things. That's fraud. They can deal with that. That's what they can deal with on a federal level because it's against the state. That's where everybody's been going wrong. I keep fighting in court. I keep going to appeals. I keep going through the loopholes. Why? Hell, I even had an attorney and this and that. The attorney's conditioned just to stay within the state and within those realms. Even your family attorney or something like that will get to the point of going to the state or the state appeal. You're going to have to find somebody else. I don't do that. It happens all the time. But you got to understand, it's a cycle of everybody making money. Those that know it, know it. Why? Because you have attorneys that tell you, just cooperate with them, just go along with it, just go this. Why? Because they're perpetuating the system. They're all part of it. Why? Everybody's making money. But see, if you're just under the Constitution as you're outlined to do anything, there's that. Now, here, let's get into the big one. How many of you know that you have constitutional rights as a parent and as a child? Right? So let me ask you something. Let's go through jurisdiction. State hasn't got the right to make a ruling on anything to do with constitutional matters at all. Matter of fact, that's a federal thing. So why are the lowest courts in the land dealing with constitutional rights issues in their courtrooms by separating parents and children? I believe you just stepped on the Constitution and the federal court. Uh-oh. Because that's a question you can't deny, because SCOTUS, as well as every constitutional professor, will tell you, yes, you have constitutional rights as parents and children to raise your children. Then why does a lower court get to do all of that, let alone without a jury? Kind of out of your jurisdiction. But they're going to continue to lie to you to perpetuate their system. Now, a lot of people blame the federal government for a lot of things. It starts in the states, people. But you also understand with that presidential election I was talking about, a lot of these states go back over 8 years. Know what that means? It means every single one of both your federal and state congressmen and senators cannot sit on that thing. It was an illegal election to send them there. You can't even send people to Congress to represent your state if you are actively involved in treason and sedition. It means everything they've done during that time has to be undone. So, and I hate to tell you this, if that's quantified as all that, well, I'm going to make some people a little mad. It also means number 45 was never a president legitimately. So he's never served. And this is all legal. So, no, we turned it over to FBI, but we just gave them the state of Tennessee. What limit did we have to see what they would do? And as soon as they got the thing of that treason and sedition part for Tennessee, it went through the FBI to say, we need your attorney to call us immediately and know what you're going to do with this evidence. They know. They know. And they're scared shitless. Because this evidence is enough. Yes, it is enough to call in the military for martial law, or for us under the Constitution, we the people. Now, be very careful and listen to how I say this. To remove all of your sitting elected and appointed officials and actors and representatives. Notice I didn't use the word government. That's how they get you with their wordplay. You say government. No. We are the government. We, the people. That's what they're scared of. Because as soon as our voice comes up, it all comes down. That's why this needs to, this is the only thing out there. All these scams of shutting down CPS, shutting down this, we are talking about shutting everything down. And some people call it the Great Reset. I call this welcome to the Great Reckoning, because this is what are the consequences of your actions of turning against the people and doing the things you've done for decades. Now you've come to the point of taking our children, but you did it by writing policy and procedures, giving especially CPS, the children, the ability to take and lie to parents. Hey, you don't get to talk to my kid without my permission, either the non-offending parent, if that's what they're calling it, but your rights don't go away. Your rights stay intact. At the same time, they violate your child's one right that you don't get to advise them of as a parent, is they have the right to remain silent. I don't have to talk to you. But they put you in a corner like Nazis and torture you. This is why that was written in our Constitution when times like this happen. And right now, with our economy and everything else doing what it is, imagine what this would do. It would stop whatever it is, the corporation, anything else. Why? I'm taking possession. I don't participate. You have committed a crime. Then you send people back in there to correct it. Make sure everything's constitutional with every code, law, everything else that you've took and shoved down our throat. Because if you're under federal or the Constitution, well, there's a little case law that goes with that too. And yes, you can just type in these words and they come up. All codes, rules, and regulation are for government only, not for we the people. Because it lacks due process and is unconstitutional. Now, you'll hear a lot of states turn around and say, well, you've broken a state law. But yet you'll look at it, say here in Tennessee, it'll say TCA, Tennessee Code Annotated. That's a code. See how you've been bamboozled? And yes, I can confirm, it has been confirmed and done by research. Your social security number is actually traded on the stock market because you are a labor unit. And all those things you've been hearing from all the conspiracy, go do the research, because you're going to find out a whole lot of truth. And there are forms out there that you can fill out to do things for the right people. I highly recommend April Lejeune. She's one of the best authors that has the most information as of now. They have buried it all. But understand, we need to go after that Fourth and 14th Amendment. This is what this is about. This has happened to me. And describe in your summary of how that right was violated. We're keeping it. Listen, we've got to keep within this. If you've got something else, what I'm trying to tell you is if you jump on this and we get people to do it and you start prying that can open, you can take on your own federal case, because this is part of this, and you link the two together. You can bring up all the rest of your crimes, including kidnapping, intimidation, all those things in a federal courtroom against your state and against those people. You can write right now, if you've had your child taken away from you due to the fact of anything else, you can file in your own state for a judicial review for your own state and fill it out against the judge or magistrate that you had in front of you. Violation of this right, and quote the case law. They've broke it. I want my child back. And then they're in cahoots with the local police departments and sheriffs. This is the one I love. They did to the law enforcement a long time ago and started the deterioration of law enforcement. We will take over everything for children. So you're the lead on all criminal cases with children then. But you're not sworn officer. You haven't got an oath to the Constitution. Kind of like a problem. Oh, the list goes on and on, Jennifer. Trust me. But the thing is, hey, we have got to take, and you got to crack open the can. It's once one starts falling, it'll all come tumbling down. This is something we need witnesses. We need people to do this and there. Everything that's collected at the email for us, and that's going to be, I'm going to type it in the comments here, is Expo. I don't know if it'll come through here. Hold on one second. There it is. expo.cps.tn@gmail.com. Yes, I'm telling you, CPS does not have an oath to anything but their supervisors. Only their supervisors. The same way that your lawyers, their first oath is to the court, not to you or the Constitution. Yeah, that one kind of hurts too when you figure that out. They've got the system hemmed up really good. The no oath, that's CPS. There's no oath to the Constitution to work for Department of Children's Services in any state. Oh yeah, but they're an acting government agency representing the state and representing the people of that state. But the first thing they do is try to enter your house without a warrant. And then if you take and say, I won't let you in, I don't have to talk to you or anything like that. Let me tell you something, how slick they are. Yeah, we got evidence of that too. They actually have a national conference that goes around the country that does training seminars. Kind of like the firefighters and policemen, a couple of others, they go to these seminars or conferences, conventions. Well, guess what? CPS has got its own little convention, including a special class on how to deal with difficult or objective parents. To coerce your way basically into the home is what it's saying, to commit a felony. They're literally teaching how to coerce your way in, and CPS and law enforcement are right there learning this stuff. And guess who's paying for it? That's right. Us as the taxpayer with your tax dollars, your property taxes, all the other things they just love to get their hands on for their money to create another government job. This country wasn't founded on government jobs. It was founded on people exploring themselves, being your own business owner, finding a skill or trait you're really good at and something you do very well and excel at it. That's why it was chosen the way it was. They were really good at making this. They were really good at making, maybe your product was different than that was competition. Great. That's what it's based on. But now your basic kid, it used to be when you got out of high school, you had a job working in the steel mill or going into this or going into that. That doesn't exist anymore. Even your basic laborers now, even in Amazon warehouses and everything else, is robotics. So what are you going to do with one or two generations of people that are being replaced by robots that have the bare minimum skills, that thought it was good enough to just get by? Holly, by you just taking, excuse me, motion to submit evidence. If you do that by you simply handing it to them and not receiving it the same way as, and the other thing is, if the judge don't, take it to the court clerk and have the court clerk put it on there. If you've gone both ways, if both of them take and do it, find a way to record them. I don't care if it's audio or not, and use it as evidence that they are rejecting that. And trust me, they make all sorts of different things to get in there with just a microphone or something. And yes, you have every legal right, if you are involved in it, to record it. Absolutely, you do. Doesn't matter judicial order or anything else. I have a right to record any official, judge or otherwise, doing or performing their duties under the oath of office. Why? Because that's just the way they were meant to be public. This is why they want closed door hearings. And they want to say, hey, I'm directly involved in the case. When asked what you're doing, or if somebody does catch it, I'm collecting evidence for a federal case. You can't prevent. Now you're tampering with evidence. Now that's another charge you're going to get. They start getting scared when you get educated fast, which is why there's been so many recourse against people. Stuff going around about Dallas and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, your ADA works, that you have a short-term memory loss. Yeah. Some of those different things. Definitely file a report. There is a local ADA available for you in your area. Yes, you can contact them and they can go over things and saying, let's say I have this disability or this or that. In my particular case, I don't know how they're going to deal with whatever, but I had, they refused our witnesses, loaded the recorder, and took away our recording devices at the door. Okay, so that was where you can take and record it as they take everything. If you had a chance to do this, is why they tell you record everything. Record what you're recording. You walk in and say, you can't take that in and say, well, it's part of my case. That's called discrimination. That's a discrimination suit is what that is, because lawyers can bring that stuff in. But if you're defending yourself or doing something for your case, that means that law enforcement has interfered with the court case. That is a federal charge. But once again, it's a lot of it is the way the federal government is going, after the fact, due to the fact that they don't want to step on states' rights, because that's the first thing they go crying. Because there is case law that basically deals with state rights of where the line is divided. When it comes to your constitutional rights, the state don't get to claim that. And once you have one in, then you have multiple in. I have my ADA violations at court. Yes, you can do that if you have your ADA, that you have memory issues or you have a form of PTSD or dyslexia. All of those are done. Yes, discrimination. Law enforcement cannot allow you, so long as they can search it and everything else and say this is exploratory, or you know what I'm talking about. Evidence. This is evidence in my case. I need to present it. That law enforcement officer right then and there, you tell them you are ready to commit a felony. because this is evidence in my case and it will directly affect, which means you have interfered or tampered with evidence, because he's not allowing that to come in. And you tell and instruct them, you instruct them, call the judge now, and then I'm bringing evidence up that they are aware of it. You have the right to scan it, make sure it's not explosive or anything else like that, or you can escort the stuff up there, but this has to go into the courtroom. By not doing so, you are committing a felony. And right now you've got a camera in their face, and go ahead, I've got you on camera, because I'll go straight to the FBI and it'll throw this case out 100% because you are tampering. Depends on your husband's case. I mean, if it's a murder case, it depends on what kind of case it is. They usually have some discretionary on that, Holly. That has a lot to do with it. Crazy dog. But basically, that's what we're talking about. I know everybody's got a lot of that here. A lot of it we're going to focus on is, listen, have they entered your home? Have they questioned anybody when they entered your home? We have case law on that, and all you have to do is say, this happened to me. Here's the best part. The state is going to help you prove your case. You're going to love this. Every CPS caseworker is required by the state to make a logbook. In Tennessee, it's called the Tennessee Facts Report. Okay. Within that, they have to notice that they came in the house, whether a warrant or anything else. They're supposed to note this. So when they basically put down, you just turn around and you use that own thing against them. Well, they didn't have a warrant. Well, they let me in. That's called coercion under this case law, Your Honor. A warrant is required and or an emergency in this. It's a simple open and shut case. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Either produce the warrant, or they should have in the Tennessee Facts Report, for example, which we got a copy of to use against them, show me in the facts report, because if so, it's been doctored. Because we have the first evidence from before, and it's not in there. So that goes against them. You've altered that thing. It gives them a chance to do that stuff. But in that own facts report, you admitted to entering a home with no warrant. You reported on yourself, is what you did. So there's your evidence right there that they didn't get a warrant. Why? Because it's supposed to be in their report. An emergency warrant, an emergency ex parte, if you're talking about a judge's order, you have to stand before a judge. You can't give a court order without issuing a warrant. So no, it has to meet the terms. They can try and play that game of, well, we used a court order, not a warrant. Well, you had to give substantiating evidence. That's a warrant. They're just changing the name of it, is what they're doing. And that's what they were getting onto them. Okay. So an emergency, yes, if you go before a judge, then the judge can make a ruling that would say, yes, I continue to agree with this emergency ex parte, and issue the ex parte that way, yes. But if it's before you've even gone before a judge, they have to have a warrant and meet the list of warrant, which I believe Dallas has explained that pretty well in a lot of his videos. Making sure it has the judge's signature, the seals on it, and the names and everything else, even the officer that has taken the statement. And if anything comes up, you can challenge that officer, whoever signed it. What person do you have, or what sworn statement do you have that you need to produce that says you have somebody that has first-hand knowledge? Second-hand knowledge, anything else doesn't do that. There is no evidence. You're guilty by the time you walk in. They are judge, jury, and executioner. That's exactly what SEC versus Jarsky turned around and basically said. No judge should have this amount of power, that this is required to come before a jury. So you can still take and file that under SEC Jarsky right now. If you've had this happen to you, you can find a federal attorney, find you a good constitutional attorney, or like I said, Dallas and I are going to work on maybe coming up with those forms that you guys can do it on yourself. But yeah, it's in the rears. Oh, exactly. When nothing's done. Hell, in my case, they had perjury. Hell, they even included my damn lawyer and said that my attorney said something to one of these people. And my attorney had to stop, and the judge was in on the whole thing. You could tell because he said, wait a minute, you can't be an attorney and a witness real fast. So they knew what was coming because it was something we had brought up. We were in the appeal process. Do I know one? Um, Generally look for one outside your state. Do some research. I'm not going to mention the one that we have as far as right now, due to the fact I know he's swamped. And I also know he's going to be the one working on those that can't afford to do their own case. We are going to be doing probably a multi-trillion-dollar or above class action lawsuit for those that don't do the others. Some take info. How difficult it is without? I'm not sure. Like I said, it is so complicated. It's a whole different world. I learned as much as I could about state courts and everything else, and this that federal courts are very similar. They derive a lot of things from them. But the one thing that the federal judge will tell you when somebody brings up some bullshit from your state, the federal judge is going to look them square in the eye and go, I don't give a shit what your state says. That's exactly what they will say. I don't care what your state law, statutes, or any of that shit says. I don't care. We're here on federal constitutional matters and whether or not your people fucked up. I'm not going to give a shit. I don't care if you wrote in there what you did. And that's going to be part of it too, of exposing that, especially in our state of you said you had a right to question children without permission. Coerce somebody in my case to bring them to their forensic center with no parent's permission and wasn't even part of the part of the party that was supposed to have been affected that was never affected. Yeah, so you went and talked to one of mine and you did it with no parents thing. That's a crime. Yeah. Oh, focus there. Sorry, this camera. Ugh. I don't know what happened to it. Anyway, out of control I am. Oh, there are, all of them is in there, and it's not necessarily your DA. It's your how should you say? It's not necessarily your DA. It's usually the CPS people that are involved in it. But yeah, the DA wants a taste of the bread too if they figure out what it is. And yeah, state's attorney, all of them's in this. Understand this is a racketeering thing. So, you know, they're looking to get money is what it comes down to. I guess that camera don't like me too close. Forensic interviews, yes, they have to record and record those. Those have to be because those are considered what they do witness. This in another state, we are set for child abuse again. Okay, Amar, if you had that there, and if you got that on tape or recording, you could hang them so bad with that. See, the issue is you come down with a rule that's called hearsay. Okay. And yeah, it sucks to be poor because that is exactly what this is about. This is about suppressing the middle to lower class people. But here's the thing. I want you to get this through to you real good. What they don't realize with this, yeah. What they don't realize with this is you get to turn the tables on all these bastards that did it to you, all of them, all the way up to the state people and gut the whole thing. But all these people you get to now hold accountable for and sue the shit out of them. Now imagine it's not just you. There's probably 100+ people that are lining up to get at that judge or magistrate that the same thing has happened, as well as all these attorneys. Do you think they can practice anymore? They couldn't afford the insurance. after the amount of lawsuits that came after them. It's bankrupting them. It's called redistribution of wealth. It's those people that are robbing the people and you're getting paid back. It's like a Robin Hood moment. We're going to take from the rich that they've been taking from the poor and basically return it back to them. But you're going to make them bankrupt. And on top of it, they can never practice law again. None of them. And if cops are involved, they'll never serve. If they're CPS, understand when you do this particular crime of what we're doing, their word will never be taken in court ever again as being valid. It will be thrown up in their face every single time. Weren't you part of this? Is that we can't take your word? You're a criminal. Oh, you mean you're just like the people over in criminal court? Yeah. Because there's no way around it. Because the evidence is so damning that we're in your house, we're in your house, we're in your house. We can make visits. We can come and go as much as we want. Now, judge is on our side. Federal law says you got to have a warrant or a court order for each entry, and it has to be very specific why you're there. And that's the only thing they can do while they're there. To seek or do this, it has to be specific, not general. Holly, that would be considered kidnapping because your first one, that's innocent until proven guilty. One, have you been convicted of a crime? Have you been indicted? Have you been arrested? No? Can't do it. That's a crime. Have you been found guilty of something, indicted, this and that? Those are the only reasons that they can interrupt your family. But they know you're not smart enough. Well, let's not put it that way, smart enough. You've not been educated properly because public school system sucks and it enslaves you instead of learning how to defend yourself against them. It perpetuates the system. Why do you think public schools all went to, you need to go to college? You're one of the college people. We don't mess with you. Why? Because you have a degree and you have a really, really good job and good money. And we like people like that. Why? Because they're good earners. Because that perpetuates the system. It's all about the money. Because that's why people call it deep state, the corporation, whatever you want to call it, because it has nothing to do with us, the people. It has to do what's good. If you're not good making money or working or being productive, you're a cost to them. They don't get to make money off of you. She wrote and said, now, see, right then, I would have turned around and challenged her to turn around and say, prove it that child has not eaten in days. For all you know, that child had a fever and didn't want to eat today, but I got him to drink something. Were you here when that child was sick? Nope. Can you testify that child was sick? Nope. So you turn the tables on them. But you got to think faster and better than what they are. And that's what they have all been trained to do. Well, little Joey told me this and that. Well, kids tell bullshit stuff all the time. It tells me about unicorns and rainbows and elves and things under their bed and little monsters and all that other stuff. Doesn't mean it exists. I mean, you turn around and tell me, he says, yeah, well, my kid told me when they took and met with you, they thought you were a magical woodland creature. It's your word against mine. And your word doesn't count any more than mine. I'm telling you, I know, that's my kid. And if it hasn't eaten in 3 days, really, you got a medical report to show that there was malnutrition by a blood test or something like that? That's called hard evidence. You have a made-up story, and that's what they're getting by with. But you got to get this stuff on the record if you have to go down this initial stuff. Put it on a record. Record it. Get them to record it and print it the fuck out if you know you're setting them up. Because a lot of times when you go into court, you feel like you're on the defense. No, set them up for a federal case. Very few times when you got your shit together and you have that hard evidence against you, the first thing they're going to do when you know that you've got the state bent over a barrel and you got a piece of the puzzle, they're going to run you into mediation in a federal case and turn around and pay you off and say, sign this non-disclosure. Here's $20 million. You can't disclose how much we gave you, but you got to keep your mouth shut. You can't use any of your case in any other case or anything like that. Why? We'll sue you. Now you're under contract law. Yeah, I would say it's against their policies and procedures. And if the judge doesn't, then I would turn around and put that before judicial review. And do you guys have a ombudsman in your where you're at, Holly? Sometimes ombudsmen are kind of like a neutral party that can go in and call bullshit. They're paid for by the state, but they're independent, or they're supposed to be. I've heard probably more good than bad than I have with an ombudsman. In Tennessee, we don't have an ombudsman whatsoever. Um, but once again, that's something, like I said, you understand the ability of what this can do is remove everything, restart everything with what, if we get enough people to actually tell their story, keep it simple like this, and then listen, guys, just keep it to this, go right there. Yeah, then you probably need to file with the state, Holly, on that ombudsman because they're supposed to listen to you, unless they're directive of this, and that. Because, like I said, once this comes out and this hits, that we have all of it and it's made public on. Yes, that's not stenographer. They use a modern day stenographer, so they don't just sit there and type on the thing as you go with their little symbols. They basically come in with a tape recorder, a digital tape recorder, and then they have so many days afterwards to produce actual paper document of what was said on those recordings. And usually those are paid for now independent, unless I believe it's a murder trial or a big capital case or something like that. But in this small course, once again, this is how they drain you financially. And the only thing you can do a lot of times with dealing with this until we stop them all together is to turn around and record them and then just take it to a higher court. Why? Because it doesn't take them long when you understand your rights and the law of what needs to do and what court it needs to be filed in and everything else, because the state courts don't give a shit about your constitutional rights. They don't. They'll dismiss it. They won't do a damn thing. I mean, I even had one of a DA try to threaten me that, well, we're going to come after you for that. I said, I fucking dare you. Why? Because the first thing you did was violate my constitutional rights on day one. There's nothing there. This is all bullshit. And if you think you can get through a court with it, through a fucking jury, good fucking luck, because it ain't going to happen. I said, you want to find out? All of a sudden, all my things went away. DA didn't want to talk about it. ADA don't want to return, turned over evidence to them. They didn't do shit about it. All that. And that's what they're going to have to deal with. Now you wouldn't take the thing of a crime. Police wouldn't take that. So you just all cover each other. You have the right to get a copy of the transcripts of the recordings. You absolutely have a right to that because it was part of that particular case. Worst case scenario, they give you a bunch of shit. CPS allowed to drug test you? No, they are not. It must be done by a certified lab and collected by technicians in a clean environment and certify it is not going to be tampered with. Your CPS worker is not licensed nor qualified to give you a drug test. They will give you bullshit and they will try and give some things, but it must be done. Even when you go to, let me give you an example. When you go to the court and the judge orders you a drug test, then what they do is they have the nurse that's usually right there for the jail come over and administer your drug staff or whatever the medical staff is there at the prison. That's usually right there, or the jailer. But it has to be done by medical personnel for it to qualify. Yeah, Lauren, that's a violation of your constitutional rights, and they're trying to seize more than your answers. They're trying to get bodily fluids off of you. And if any of you are Second Amendment people, let me tell you something else we found out. When they do their home surveys, one of their questions is, do you have any weapons in the home? How many? What do you have? What do you use them for? And that goes on their report and stays in their computer until basically under federal law, it's supposed to be till the youngest child is of the age of 19 federally. No, if they're administering the test, then the state absorbs that cost. Yep. Now, I've seen some other people turn around and do the same things. You going to lie on me? I'll lie on you. I'll tell you know I've heard people take. He says that's the easiest way to get people to go away. He says you turn dirty for dirty, and I'm not saying this is right, but I've heard it because they don't have cameras and they don't have shit either. To where he turns around and says, I mean, hey, criminal, you lie on me, I lie on you. Because basically it comes down, it's both hearsay. Hey, CPS worker said if I'd sleep with him or do sexual favors for him, that he wouldn't take my kids and make my case go away. How you got to not prove it? Call the cops right after they show up. You don't think that don't work? Well, once again, it's not for that person, Amar, to take and believe that or not. They don't have the right to make that judgment call. They are not a professional. I would challenge them on what medical degree they have. Are you a nutritionist? Are you this? Are you that? So who are you? Because unless you are a professional of those things, you have no legal right to make a statement on that thing, nor even make a report on it. Actually, you can, and if the judge takes that as fact, that judge is in deep shit. They're not a professional. You were given hearsay testimony in the whole thing. There was not one professional available. He told her, let's see. They had 26 brief silences. It happened to be when my husband was. I guess I'm a little confused on that one, Holly. Could you clarify that, please? Trying to work if it says I pay for the first. Okay, that's called coercion to contract, Lauren. They can't force you to sign anything. If you do, you put it under their UD under duress or threat next to what it says. And yes, that does constitute fraud as well. That's actually giving a false statement to actually that's a criminal action. And that's what they're getting away with is technically making a false statement to a state official or a law enforcement official or court official is considered a crime. Um, Psychological MLD, okay, forensic pathologist. Well, once again, listen, those things you've got to do that the court wants you to do or they say you want to do, you have every right within everything to choose your own. So if they want a drug test, you go get a drug test and it's stamped and dated by a proper legitimate lab. It's acceptable in a courtroom. And if it's anything contradicted for, I can say that mine wasn't tampered with. Can you say the same thing? Have you met all the federal guidelines for drug testing? And they'll have to turn around. No, because he or she is not certified. Yes, a lot of them will come in thinking you got to understand the power and authority that they have been given and the things that they think they've been given because it's not. They don't have this authority that the state has lied to them. Literally, their policies and procedures are stuffed with stuff that's illegal as shit to do and unconstitutional. And they're breaking constitutional law daily. You don't have the right. I have the right to sit here and remain silent until you fucking prove it or get fucked. True. Because it's all voluntary. And if you go to push the issue, that's called retaliation. But you're not educated on this when CPS comes to the door. They say, I have to come in. I have to do this. No, you don't. You got a warrant or court order because you don't. And if you don't show me the warrant and I got you on tape and I see you enter, that's enough to take your ass to federal court, and you violate it. And they can go on with it, whatever court they want. You take that right to a federal judge and right to the FBI. I'm pressing criminal charges. Why? I've tried to go up the ladder and report it to the state's attorney or this, and this. Let's see. As well. Okay. Oh, yeah, the foster care system. Listen, Dallas and I have talked about this tremendously. You have to sustain the system on many different things for these people to get money. One is they get you involved with this where you can go through this. Hey, I want to be a foster kid. Why? Because once you condition a kid to take and do some of the things they want to do, even if it's never happened, and a lot of times it hasn't, it's bullshit. It's falsified evidence. It's coercion evidence. It's this, it's that. Over a lot of time, either the kid's mad or the child has an active imagination, or they have what is called being autodidact. That is a range of autism. In other words, they have a processing disorder. They don't process like you and me. They're not adults. They get things confused. Well, you want to get in that conversation, well, then you're going to get into our food supply and the stuff they're being fed that parents don't realize. Hey, I figured this stuff in the grocery store is healthy, right? It's USDA approved, till you realize all the poisons and dyes and everything else and the additives to it and what the side effects of those things are right there. I guarantee you somebody that's got a good amount of money ain't feeding their kids that crap. They ain't getting those stuff with the dyes and all the other junk in it. The sodas with the corn syrup, red dye 40, yellow dye number this and that, this mono something or other, this and that. That's why our stomachs are so upset. They started giving us stuff like Pepto-Bismol and other things for upset stomach and all those other things. It's a drug to mask another drug to still let it do the damage. And we're seeing that today as we've gone through it. All you have to do is sit back, watch, and observe. I mean, that gets in that. But as far as becoming a foster parent, they'll perpetuate that. And then they'll let them off with a slap on the wrist. Just keep abusing these kids. Why? Because now they're affected. Now they're abused. Now they'll have to grow up with this shit and really be abused. I mean, there's a lot of people I talk to that I was taken away from my parents for some bullshit, kidnapped. Then I went into a home and then I got abused. I've got a family right now I know of. Same person came back around after taking them, got them back home, and come in with another fucking thing. Same caseworker, another anonymous complaint, more bullshit, and terrorizes his kids. Caseworker says, I bet you don't remember me. Oh, yeah, I remember you. You're the one that kidnapped me and then took me from my mom and dad and made me go live over this place where people touched me. Yeah. But they don't want to hear that. And then they're back over there and then they push and push. Why? Because they'll go back and milk the same cow till it's broke, till you say you've had enough. Until you stand up and say, I've had enough, or you can actually fight it, or you get one of these people and you catch them. Then they won't come near you. Listen, you have a right whether your family is dysfunctional. And let me give you an example. There are not anybody out there that has a picture perfect family out there. They're full of shit. Everybody's family is dysfunctional in one way, whether it's you got a goofy aunt, a grandmother, somebody that doesn't understand boundaries, somebody that doesn't understand, this or that, somebody that has this problem, that problem. We all deal with it. Here's the scary part. I'll have to look up what the brief silences is and that terminology, Holly. I don't have my stuff in front of me. Like I said, I go through it. The best of what it is, it's a brief silence. It just says brief silence on the transcripts. Then that could be just a break in between one person talking and another person talking. There is a possibility that has to be noted. There was a long gap of space for a reason, and that's to add dramatic pause to the reader, which can actually changed the case a lot on how things are done, or even read to perceive when it's took and reviewed. So you got to watch some of that too. You know, why was there a pause? If that's the case. And yeah, it perpetuates the system. Um, Listen, there's a lot of people that have gone through this, and the first person they attack, I hate to say it, guys, is women. That's the first thing they've gone for. I just want it over with. I don't want to deal with it no more. The mother hen kicks in. Somebody's hurt and this person's hurt. I just want them to stop, whatever it'll take. They use that psychology against women. Believe it or not, they're trained to do this. Because I've got somebody going through, I know personally, that is going through school to be a social worker. She doesn't want to work for CPS. She wants to work with this. She actually truly wants to help kids, but understand it's going, you know, I mean, basically the thing is it's going to take us, you know, they may not see, you know, you may not see just me. You may not see just the 10 of us, but do you see the millions of us? You got to understand this goes back 2 decades. 2 decades. Looks like we've got some more people. We'll do a recap. So to recap everything, what we're looking to do is gather evidence. If in your case or anybody with CPS has ever dealt with them to where they have entered your home without a warrant, questioned you on your private property or your children without a warrant, have wanted to do a drug test or any kind of salve test or anything like that on your private property, or your case was heard before a court that did not have a jury. What we're going for is these are constitutional rights violations, and shows that the state, we have evidence that shows every state is actively involved in treason and sedition against the people, and they are paying people to violate the residents of each state constitutional rights, and doing it with your tax dollars and federal money. That's what we're dealing with there, Robin. I hope that recaps it the best of what it is. What we're asking from people is get this. And if you look through the comments, trying to back this up, this is the format. Your name, your county, the names of people that were involved in the case and their titles, judges, CPS workers, supervisor, whatever you've got, a brief summary of just the rights that were violated that we've talked about. And then we're going to take, and they entered my house without a warrant. That's a Fourth Amendment violation. And then we'll give you the case law and everything else. That's going to be on this. Now, if you'll look through there, scroll up through there, I'll put it in there once again. We're going to use this email that you guys are the first to hear this. So we go live with this like worldwide tomorrow, and I'm working with Dallas in it. So we'll put that email up there again. And what we've done is we have an FBI agent, we have DOJ aware of what we have right now just for the state of Tennessee. But what we've done is uncovered the same policies, procedures, handouts, everything else that they are telling people lies about their constitutional rights. For example, you have a right to yes, if you guys can start working on these, get working on these. And as this comes up, we need you guys' help. We're going to do a TikTok, some TikToks in there. Help us pass the word is the idea. The idea is the more people we get to file, because right now they know that they're aware of a crime. They need to know where the victims are. It's not just me. It's not just these 5 families. It's thousands. It's tens of thousands. It's 100,000s. This is enough to get all these judges removed. CPS and CPS workers, everybody shut down and sued. It's telling you have the right to sue all these people in federal court because of these constitutional rights violations. I'm giving you enough information and everything else to go win your own case when you go through this. I was one of those victims under this thing, and I'm giving you the case law that you can give right to a federal attorney. This is the case law you use to take and fight it, and it's never been overturned, and this is what's happened to me. We're literally leading the way because we have a civil case filed right now. under this same thing. And it's gone through. And I'm working with one of the top 10 best constitutional attorneys in the entire country, even to the point they tried to get rid of this man's license and everything else. So we've been hammering at this thing to get this done. And see, I had congestive heart failure before I started any of this. A little personal note, and to understand, when I had the congestive heart failure, they pushed me and put me through hell. I mean, it made my condition worse enough to where I had my scar from my pacemaker defibrillator. That's how much stress and hell they put you through, enough to kill you. And yes, we will be doing our best to try and get in there for an attempted murder charge on my case, because all of it was fabricated and everything else. That's my case. But this is the way we can all come together, by stepping into this and saying, my constitutional rights were violated. You're on that list. You now quote that list to your attorney, file on my case, but now add all these other charges of kidnapping, intimidation. Now you can add all the rest of them to your federal civil case and sue them on your own. And for the people that don't do it, it's automatic. You don't have to be added to the class action. All it has, part of the stuff with the class action, is that you haven't filed your own. And when you sign up for that class action, we'll have that ability when it comes time for that, when it goes there. That's what it does. Yes, it did. As a matter of fact, it went to, I actually coded out a couple times. So they were able to bring me back, got control of that, but I have about 15% of my left ventricle, less than 15%. Right now, they're going to try and heal it with this and some medications the best they can. If not, I will be up for a heart transplant because of what they've done. So, yes, it got very bad. I was hospitalized for well over a week. Had about 4 heart attacks waiting in the, had about 4 heart attacks when I was sitting in the ER waiting. So, guys, this is not a scam. It's not anything to take and rob anybody to do anything. It has to do with giving you guys a chance to do your own thing and take control. And one, wake up and educate yourself, because that's what they don't want. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to have this information. They don't want you to know they fight. They want you to keep spending money in their state courts and their state systems. That who's running the whole damn show? The state. And they're going to cover their, listen, if they're so corrupt, they get your local sheriff and your local law enforcement to step back from investigating actual crimes. Wow. You affected law enforcement, including your duly elected constitutional sheriff. You realize this goes off, they all go away and can never serve in a public office ever again, ever, for their entire life. And then they have to go under investigation and see how far they're connected, because that's dereliction of duty for all of them. There's some states that they actually tell them to call law enforcement to gain entry with no warrant. Do you know how much that's going to affect that state's law enforcement? Most of them, if not all of them, they're all gone, because that's called aiding and abetting. Your immunity is gone. When they give you stuff about, well, you can't sue a state judge, you can't sue the, yes, you can. Under deprivation of rights under the color of law, which is a felony, you can sue them. And then what the FBI and everything like they're telling us, we can't arrest nobody because we don't have enough criminals. We have this and we have some of your evidence. Where's the victims? When they start stacking up, that's when they go, oh, this is serious. But recapping too, this is also gone to Army CID, because this is treason. The only court in the land that can deal with treason is a military tribunal. So I hope that takes and catches you up a little bit there, Robin. But guys, I know your cases are this, but listen, we've got to keep this clean and simple. And a lot of people got a lot of emotion in this. We have got to keep it between the lines, because as soon as you start spouting all the other things, there's the problem why nobody listens, because it's too much information. Keep it clean and simple and on point. When it comes down to you get to your court, in federal court, your day in court, you can hold them accountable for whatever you want. That's where you go over your case to see what qualifies as kidnapping, what qualifies as this, what qualifies as that, what qualifies as fraud. That's what this is about. This is what Dallas and I have been going through, this evil. This is just pure pungent evil for months now on two different sides, where Dallas deals, bless his heart, to be honest, that man sees and hears so much evil. It's like, dude, I had to ask him, I said, what do you do when you have to touch this much evil or, deal with this? He said, man, I have to go outside and find simple things to take a break. I mean, you got to get some good in you, because this, you're right, this is pure just evil. It's the darkest evil, and it deals with our children. But this is our one and only opportunity before they start covering their butts. Right now, that case law that I shared with you, SEC versus Jarsky, if you didn't go before a judge with a jury, your case is now thrown out. And I guarantee you, over 90% of these cases with CPS will get thrown out if you file. Stephanie, here's the best part. You send me the email of a hello and what state you're from. I'm going to send you the evidence of highlighted handbooks, pamphlets, and everything else of all 50 states. Write down the SEC versus Jarsky. I tried my best, but if I don't, make sure you write that down. And these are the things you can throw up at them right now. If you're involved in a case and you're in a court, you stop proceedings right now. Where's my jury? Your Honor, under this case law, you can't proceed. You're committing a Seventh Amendment violation, clear. And here's the case law. I want this case dismissed immediately under this. There's your motion for dismiss. No jury. You're in violation of the Constitution of the Seventh Amendment. According to this particular case law, it's required. And they set the dollar limit at $20. And of course, they're going to say, well, we're not exchanging money. You're getting paid from the government, ain't you? You're all making money. Now your case doesn't hold merit. And you entered my home, which is a crime. And I'm reporting the crime to the court. If so, there's an officer of the court. I wish to see him afterwards and file a case of breaking and entering by the state official. You refuse to take the report or investigate the report? That's also a crime. You realize under the Constitution, that's a crime. We're not playing, because everybody's going to have the whole weekend once we go on this, and following it up with probably a live session with Dallas and I for a podcast on Saturday. He's going to announce that. So he's working his butt off right now, working on stuff, trying to get this all together. But right there, if you don't have a jury in your case, you go right in and you sit down. Your Honor, I want a motion for dismiss based on what? Deprivation of rights under the color of law, Your Honor. Excuse me, under SEC versus Jarsky, I'm required to have a jury, and we haven't had a jury from this, so you've already began it. You've already committed the crime. You're actively committing the crime by just having court here today. Ouch. And if you don't think I can't get it in federal court, they've already won it in federal court. All I have to do is quote that case law, and you can't fight it. You're screwed, which means you've now committed a felony, which now I'm going to report to the Judicial Review Board of the state that you're committing constitutional crimes in your courtroom, and it's been ongoing. You should have known about this, Your Honor, to terminate these things and call for a what? A retrial or something like that to redo it. But they do all this administratively, which is why they get away with it. Now they're saying they have to do it judicially and have a jury. How much is that going to rip into their pocketbooks paying those jurors so much a day? Let alone to hear it. See, you got to play their game on their rules with their own rule book and throw it back at them. Because here's the thing. I may lose today, but when I file my federal case, you do realize that deprivation of rights under the color of law strips you of all your immunity. Start using those words. And everybody here is an accessory to this crime, standing in this courtroom. You put them on notice that way. Go ahead, run. I really don't care as of this point, because right now this court is illegitimate. It's illegal. And once this gets to here, it will be thrown out. Why? Because it's already been established. And you're not following constitutional federal law for the courts. You were directed back in June. There's no grace time. You're supposed to keep up on this. See, right now, every state is committing a whole lot of treason and sedition. And once this can of worms gets open, you're going to figure it out. They've been passing laws and codes and all sorts of stuff in all these different states and policies and procedures all along that don't even meet constitutional. And that's the one thing they're required to meet, is the constitutional standard. But they don't. They're supposed to keep up on federal case laws to adjust their policies, procedures, and codes and rulings accordingly. And when they realize they've been caught, do you think that's on the news? Hey, everybody that's had a CPS case all through the United States and you didn't have a jury, guess what? You can now file against them, terminate everything that's happened to you, and then turn around and sue them. That didn't make the news back in June, did it? Because they can make money on it, and it's till you get caught. Oh, let me tell you something from, just to give you a little share of the research I had to go through. Oh, there's some states I had to go to the Attorney General's office to find their policies and procedures. They're in there. They're only required to put them out there for the public under information under the Public Information Act, but doesn't say that they have to make it easy for you to find. There's nowhere that says that. Some buried it over here in DSS. Some did it under the Department of Human Services. Some of them put it out here, but then another part that was over here. I've been and dug and dug and dug, and you'd be amazed at what has been found. Some of it's so simple, I couldn't, some of it in the beginning, it just made me so sick, I couldn't even continue through the rest of the document. But if you guys go through these documents, you're going to see where I'm going with it and reading these case laws. Yeah. So guys, email that email address, expo.cps.tn@gmail.com, and I'll give you everything you need to prove it and to share it with anybody else that's in there. Hey, go here and then have this format. I'm going to try and scan in that last document, and I'll just put like one little folder out there that I'll try and email it to you. Hopefully the file's not too big. But if that runs into it, I believe Dallas is working on getting it on his website, truthhurts.com. That's going to be available for everybody. Dallas has a lot of this information as well, every state. The idea is this isn't about money. This isn't about anything. This is about our kids, our families, and our freedom. And we've had enough. And when they realize, it's kind of like, what did I say the name of that one? Ants. You know, I always say all the time, and this is like the grasshoppers trying to figure out and keep us dumb and enslaved till the ants realize we outnumber you. And the more cry for overturning everything and you inform everybody of this, how many people are going to get on board that's sick of being overtaxed, taken advantage by the government, or they've got somebody that they love, they believe that was given a false trial in so many in the past 4 years that now they have a chance to file this and get their loved one that was maybe railroaded in a corrupt, other system set free, because you can't take and run courts legally. Nope. Confirmed through a constitutional professor. You can't legally perform anything within your government if you're actively involved in those crimes as a state. It all gets flipped and done. That's the part that's going to hurt. As well as all your judges are gone, which means every judge, the judges can't stay, because now every judge has presided over a case of fraud. And they're complicit in it because they ruled over it. And it gets, because the state was actively involved in treason and sedition, that clears out all your state upper judges that does criminal actions. Now everything they've ruled on or dealt with for the past so many years is null and void. Now they may take and try and hide this the best they can, but all of a sudden, all your courts are empty by the state. All your state and elected officials are gone. Everything starts over. So we don't like things like term limits. Got to have term limits in there, guys. We got to stop this lobbying. This is the problem. You need to represent the people, not the corporation. This is where our Constitution's so beautifully written, we can make these corrections if we need to. That's why it was put in there. When things like this happens, there is a procedure. Even within the military, if this happens, they understand what has to be done. They will execute it flawlessly. And people will still be able to function. But all these other bullshit things that have been happening, all the backdoor deals and the stuff that they've been doing, listen, how about when you write a law, especially when you go to Congress, make it part of this, that it's simple and not 5 or 20 million things in one fucking bill. Let's just keep it clean and simple. You guys do realize Congress is already aware of what's going on with this, and this is how legit this is. Why do you think they were taking and pushing for the 28th Amendment to have somebody, if something happens to them, that they're immediately replaced? That means their own people being back in the seats to maintain that control that they approve of. We get this pushed through faster than that, and before an election, there won't be an election. There won't be any in there because nobody can cast any votes. You're now under military rule, and military's number one thing is not to take and keep control, but is to reinstitute that form of government and make sure it's done things. So that whole thing of, well, my vote don't count no more, there ain't no electronic. When that was written, it was old-fashioned paper ballot, standing there with machine guns in the whole 9 yards. And if you're too fragile to vote, that's your fucking problem. Don't vote. But this is the security that's needed to verify. The military can say, we verify that these are accurate and not been tampered with or messed with. Yeah, I did my state congressman, and he actually tried to get the ball rolling. And a lot of them, they don't want to hear the shit. They don't care. You're a peon. But once again, you know what makes there's an old-fashioned saying. You know what gets the grease? The loudest squeaking wheel. So scream from the tops, because there's no profit in this for anybody. I'm not looking for money. I'm trying to take care of everything, in my case, out of my own pocket. Trust me, it's killed me and drained me, as well as the support of our family. Some people don't have that. Okay, but once again, it's like what they say, what was said by one of our forefathers. The only thing for evil to accomplish its goal is for good people to do nothing. And the one thing I still believe in with my whole heart about this true nation is we the people, the good and the bad. Even with tearing down of some of the statues and everything else, oh, well, those are slavery. No, you don't understand. We need to learn from our history. We were that. We were those things. Let's admit to it. We weren't good. But that's where we came from to become a better person. It shows that we're proving that we're trying to become better as humans. Because that's the one thing lacking now, is all we're seeing now is evil all around us. And it's got our kids. So I'm asking for you guys' help. Like I said, we'll be on TikTok. Just look for it. We're going to go live. I believe a couple things like that's going to go on for, I don't know if it's going to be dual on the Truth Hurts podcast or the other, but we are putting out a series of TikToks and other public, basically advertising to other people in our neighborhoods, Facebook pages, this and that. Have you dealt with CPS in the past decade? Have you done this and that? No, we have a real solution. We need your voice. Now, they may take and try some bullshit or anything. You turn around, I don't care. Why? Because I'm part of a federal case. Now you understand, they start messing with you. The words you throw out, you're now interfering with the federal investigation and gathering of evidence. Yeah, now you got their attention. And as soon as they start hearing that type of wording, going through these counties back and forth, and you're getting names and you're gathering this and you're sharing information as much as you can, send it to this, do it here, do it here. They ain't going to know what to do. They're in trouble, and they know it. Their day's coming. What are you talking about, federal? they flip out. I already had one person that was working on my personal case that said CPS came back around, tried pulling some bullshit with him. As soon as he turned around and told the thing, he says, "You realize, that there's somebody coming after you." Yeah, Dallas, I believe is going to run that one. I'm just trying to do the best I can with what I have. I'm still trying to recover from being in the hospital. I had I think 4 or 5 states left before I end up having to go in the hospital for my heart. And like I said, it was one of those things. I was even debating my wife with everything we've been through of, is it better just to let them go or continue fighting? Is it really worth it? And it's one of those things. It's worth it. Not just for my family, but it's it's worth it for the kids, because this has got to stop. Uh, my TikTok is I believe it's in there, Gunner 1911. Um, so that's I don't remember if it had an A after it or something like that. You'll kind of see me because I'm sitting there pointing at a trophy. Yeah, they basically took my business from me and everything. So that's I got Jennifer Brabson. I got you on the email. It has come through, Jennifer. Thank you. We'll get you added to that. But like I said, let me double check that. Do, 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 do. Gunner 1911. Yeah, that's it. So, guys, pay attention to this. Looks like, yeah, it looks like some things are just going. Like I said, Dallas has got his hands full with everything. Um, that's a lot. Like I said, we have been collaborating. We've been working on this for almost, I think, over a year or something like that right now, and it's been, man, it's been pure hell, and that's what he's been sitting on. Basically, is the fact that we have all of this and working with federal attorneys and everybody else of going, wow, you found that for Tennessee, and they go, well, somebody brought up, well, what about another state? And that just sparks my curiosity. And I began to go through every state and realize this is not isolated to one state, but every state I touched and looked and dug and knew how they were hiding it or what. The thing is some of them are so lazy and stupid that they use some of the same methods state by state. They'll copy off of one state that's over here or this, that as their example or their leader, which is unbelievable that they're just that foolish. Some are just blatant and they put it out. Guys, I want to thank you. I know we're kind of go up and down. Get that email to me. I will send you a copy of that. And then just like I say, go on the Facebook site, share it around, share that information, and just tell them to hold on to it. And like I said, just share it with everybody. They're not going to understand what they have when you're first looking at it. Once they understand, we have a conversation like everything else. This is your chance to get your kids back. Every child returned for over a decade, ripped out of these foster homes and everything else and all that other stuff where all these crimes have happened. Hold these people accountable, both the judges, the CPS workers, all the way up the damn ladder. Get them all taken out. This is a chance to change actually a nation, and it's one of the few opportunities in a lifetime that we may have. And it's just one of those things of just saying it's not right, and then finding the proof or evidence to actually go before a court and say, here is the hard evidence, refute what this says, because now we have evidence of people that you have actually done these things to, that you say, oh, that ain't the way it worded. Then why did it happen for these 500 people? Because now you're talking out your ass, because now we have tons you have ammunition, so to speak, to bring them down. If that was so, that's just something in the book, or it deals with this and that, or he entered the home again and entered the home again and entered the home 10 times, not one time without a warrant, which goes against this case law. And once they're confronted with that case law, it scares the shit out of them. Why? It's never been overturned. So the court has to follow it. And that means they have to come up with an excuse or some kind of loophole. And let me tell you that one about entering on the Fourth Amendment, there's no loopholes in that thing. It's bulletproof. The other one without a jury thing, yeah, that's pretty clear and apparent before any judge when it comes down to it. If you're going to deal with all this, you kind of need to have a jury, because, yeah, too much power for the lower courts, because you sure as hell ain't getting away with stuff we ain't getting away with type thing. But they'll hold them to it. And that's the biggest thing I think that is, once again, too, remember this too. That means all these attorneys, if there's no courts and no federal, and we're under federal martial law, we're under martial law, there's no attorneys going to work. They're not included. Their bills are still going to be due. Oh, wait, you mean you get to feel like the poor people? I remember that. And they tried to do it to me again. Smarter than that. Now you're going to know what it's like when you can't pay your bills, and then they look at you, well, you're an attorney. You don't have money. No, they got a lavish lifestyle, man. They got this, $500,000 house and all these Beamers and all these other fancy things and this and that. I can't afford the payments on them again. I guess you're going to have to file bankruptcy, big boy. Now what? Now you're broke. Now all these attorneys that have come through and sucked these people dry. You're telling me all these, here's the other thing. You're telling me all these attorneys, and they've been to school. They've got technically a master's degree. And I apologize for the camera shaking. Table's a little wobbly. All these attorneys, and not one of them said, why don't we have a jury? Wow. What kind of quality of education is that for higher education then? That nobody's figured this out. Or the lawyers that do fight it or get on that trail, boy, they press them out real quick. Judges don't like them, nothing. They don't win a case. They don't give a shit. And then what's that lawyer going to do? Hey, I can't win no cases, but come pay me money. See how that works? So now we have evidence that they have violated the state. We have proof that they have violated law enforcement. And we've proven that they've taken and basically the whole judicial branch of the state is toast. All of it's gone. Every officer will have to be retrained because of what has happened. If that's what we're calling for, is go back under this, and this holds them to it with the evidence. But this is why we need the people. Send this to the people use that format. Like I said, and once this goes up, we're going to push it out to everybody that we can. So, like I said, guys, I appreciate everything you've done. I'm hanging in here for almost 2 hours. We got a little bit of a late start. But listen, you want this to end. You want somebody to quit the pain and suffering. I love Dallas, and I talked about, I had to watch my wife and other people go through what they did and the amount of PTSD they have. Even like I was telling you about another friend of mine that just got, redone. His wife was just like, I just want him to go away. I don't want to go through this again. I can't go through this again. The terror of that, and the children of everything, of wondering, Dallas, how do we get them past their fear? Because even talking to my wife of pressing charges and going forward, and because it was witness intimidation, it was bad in our case, very bad. Terrorized the hell out of us. Lied, fabricated stuff. I mean, all sorts of. I mean, none of it was done right. But just to get her to the point of coming out of that shell, of having to not look over her shoulder that somebody's coming to steal her kids. I don't want another mother to take and feel like that. And to be honest with you, I think that some of the husbands and everything else that you guys have, fathers, good men, wouldn't stand for this. Not for our children, not for our families. We wouldn't wish this upon our grandchildren. Nobody should have to go through this ever. None of our descendants. But now we have a chance to actually stop it, and it's real. It's not a petition. It's not this. It's not that. It's you standing up and saying, this happened to me. My rights were violated. Here's the people involved. And like I said, we'll tell them, we've already told them where to look for it. Prove that they had a warrant. Because that case law says specifically you cannot enter without a warrant. And if you question, it's an additional charge. You start adding this up, then your caseworkers and everybody else starts getting these charges and everything put on them. They can't work no more. All those jobs back that they look down their noses at, which a lot of these people do. Oh, you work at McDonald's, you're this. Couldn't you get a college education? Could you do this? Guess what? You can't get a job now either. You're in the same thing because you're a felon. Now what are you going to do? Lauren, listen, guys, the one thing I'm going to tell you is listen, I'm not a female. What I'm going to encourage you guys to do is we'll call this kind of like our beginning, our core group. A lot of you guys on here, a lot of this is female. Listen, guys, you need to help each other. Okay? Yes, okay, I get it, gross. Sometimes they start it. I get it. The point is that's not a good man. Okay? The point is the women, don't take your personal experience that because it happened with you, with your man, means all men are like that. Everybody is their own. There are people out there that are evil. And it's both men and women. Let's just be honest. The point is we have to judge it on that's why the courts are the way they are, is quick categorizing and lump summing everybody in there. And that's what they want to do to us, is divide us. See, all of this is all done together. They want to split your family apart. They put you at odds with your significant other or father on purpose. Why? Because it makes the courts more money. Child support, court cases, attorney fees, all these other different things. How much money would these courts and states make if you all stayed together and you were able to work it out? We stress you financially and keep you poor. We get you wrapped up in this, and that. You know, we're just a piece of cud to chew on. Let's just make sure that these people are miserable. Then you're not happy. Then there's no purpose of everything other than you're going to work and trying to do what you want to do. Not all men are evil. Not all women are evil. Each person is an individual. I'm not going to categorize nobody there. I know better, because that's how they divide people. It's because the color of your skin. That's bullshit. Myself, I grew up in Southside Chicago. We had every race, religion, creed, everything else around. We didn't care. It wasn't until people brought it up as a race that somebody's doing this because and we look and say, no, it's bullshit. The point is you're lazy and you're making my job harder because you're not pulling your weight. It came down to being a human, doing the right thing. That was the measuring rod. But now it's because of this, and this was happening. Hey, previous generations hated me. That means all generations hate you. Case by case basis, man. But once again, you notice what else you lost? Community. I'll bet half of you don't even know who your neighbors are. Used to, when you got in trouble, you'd run down the road or anything like that. Your neighbors would call on you because you was messing up. Didn't matter if you was country or city. You was country messing out in Farmer Bob's thing, this, that. Oh, I guarantee he knew it was you. You was getting a call. If you was growing up in the city, hey, the whole block knew exactly who you are and who your parent was. Because if you screwed something up, you got told on, snitched. 100%. We don't have that anymore because we're so divided and isolated. COVID really screwed us up. And that's where you saw the states flex their muscle and see they could get away with it. Why? Because they suspended the constitutional rights of everybody and put them in lockdown. And only until afterwards, there had to have a case ruling. Under no circumstances is the Constitution suspended. Even in times of war or this or that. But here's the scariest thing about CPS. You realize the way they're structured right now, oh, this one's going to hurt. They drive you to where all of a sudden we maybe go through a Great Depression like what we did before. The housing market does this, you're homeless, you're this, you're that. Guess who comes in and takes your kids? You don't have a way to defend yourself. Living on the streets or living out of a friend's thing, guess what? They get your kids. They're coming for you. You're now an unfit parent because you couldn't sustain. Really, I didn't run the economy. I didn't do that. Matter of fact, it was my appointed elected officials that did that. Yep. Oh, I've seen the fabricated ones. That's why I tell everybody with a warrant, you have a right to retain a copy of that warrant. Make sure that if they have a warrant, you get a copy. That is not a digital on their phone. They have to have one in hand print to give it to you. Otherwise, no entry is granted. If they do pass it and no warrants, no, it was not perceived. How it's not a valid warrant, besides being innocent. Okay, you're going to have to, Dallas covers that in one of his, I believe one of his TikToks, to make sure it has the proper signatures, seals, It's not stamped. It's done properly. I would recommend counseling with him if you have any further questions with that. He's got his own thing kind of set up now where he's had to segregate himself to, hey, sign up for this particular thing if you really want help, because so many people have just there's been too many people that have just really attacked him for wanting and wanting and wanting. Or the other thing is he's willing to help, but then everybody's wanting to, they want somebody to do it for them for free. And that's where our society has conditioned a lot of people that is wrong. You need to do your own work. You need to stand for yourself. You need to stand and be counted. And it's that time. And that goes for everybody. But you got to understand the billions and billions of dollars that every state is making off of this stuff. And the jobs. Yeah, well, we're creating jobs by persecuting the people. That ain't creating jobs. But we do all this. Ain't nobody going to want to work for CPS or anything with it. Why? Because we're going to educate people. Well, if CPS came into your house, that, you must have done something wrong. I'll just make sure I avoid it. It's a matter of time before that beast takes and starts chomping its way up the ladder. It ain't just playing in the ghettos or in the poor farms or the people that don't have much. They're jumping into middle class now. Why? Because the poor people's poor, and now you've got people that are middle class that are becoming poor, and they're needing to consume more. You wonder why we got all the immigrants we did? Why? Corporation needs more workers. We ain't produced enough. Some of their little ideals backfired on them. Hey, let's take and do this. Hey, let's take and do that. Listen, everybody's got their opinion on things. I guess mine's worth about the same thing, 2 cents. I love everything that my wife does. I appreciate everything she does and the role she plays and the assistance she gives. Does she need me? No. Do I need her? No. We choose. And see, there's the problem of there's not a codependency, but understand you want something that is sustainable, that they'll stand beside you. And the first thing that happens with a lot of things is looking how I get out, or when you get into things, there's always a way out. And understand that. I can tell you that from experience from my first one. There was always a way out. There was always that thing. If you can't, a way out. With my wife now, when I got remarried, there is no way out. You know how you get around divorce court and alimony and all the other things? Yeah. They had a lot of those. Trying to think of it. There was my mind. You have to forgive me. My mind's a little blank. A dowry. You would both secure a dowry, both the father of the bride and the husband. That if you left, this is the dowry you got. There were no courts. Matter of fact, it's still practiced today by people that don't get a marriage license but are married. They bypass that system. You need a dowry. So if you screw up or there's something of the contract that you don't hold true, that you both agree on at this time, or don't amend that contract that is between just you and that other person, not the state. That's how they're getting involved. Nothing there. You make the choice. You make the choice every day. Then it depends on the individual. Sometimes we don't pick good. But when somebody's always looking for the door, that's usually a pretty big red flag. I'm not looking for this. I want to look for my forever person. And sometimes, well, this happened, well, that happened. Did you really think and choose? Did you spend enough time dating, courting, some of the other things, let alone as you get a little bit older, you get a little bit wiser. You already know the red flags that you weren't taught. Why? We weren't taught these things about relationships, about being a parent, about this, about that. Nobody sat us down and said, listen, this is what it's going to be like. This is what that's going to be like. That's what this is going to be like. You may have to go through this, but understand this is where you have integrity and you have respect, not only for the other person, but for yourself. And if you think that you're without, or you're, nothing, everything is somebody's fault, that's usually a big red flag that you were part of the problem and you can't accept responsibility. I'm an adult. I screw up, but I learned from my mistakes. That's the best thing you could ever do as a human. And the only thing in this situation here is learn from our mistakes. This is too much power, but within our Constitution and our laws, we have the ability to change that. Now, you guys pay attention to those because we're going to release that FBI's email to turn that into, as well as that email we have. We're keeping this for Army CID. But yes, we have sent that off because we want them to come in. Once this goes public and they get explanation of what it is, there was a short video sent to them, but basically saying the same thing. This is a reason you can come in. It doesn't take an act of Congress. They can load whatever they want. The point is we get feelings too much. We deal with too many feelings and not enough facts. But a lot of that, listen, I want you to hear me. I want you to hear me good. When it comes to divorce and a lot of those other things, some of this, it's not your fault, because you are being poisoned by your food to do these things. And our next generation is seeing the signs of our bodies trying to adapt to those, which is why we have autism going through the roof, ADHD going through the roof, all these different things. These are not magical things, and they've always existed. They're a byproduct of the consumption of the plastics and chemicals that we've had done to us, that we've consumed and expect it was better. We trusted that when we went to the restaurant, we got pure meat. Now you go to test, it's funny. I always laughed and told my kids, I said, back in my day, when they advertised for the Big Mac, it used to say all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. They can't say that now because that is bioengineered food, and it's pure, it's plastic and everything else. It's poison. You think the people that make wealthy money and this and that eat half of that garbage? Nope. Right fresh off the farm or out of the garden. That's the way they have it. Top shelf, and you pay more for it. Hell, they even started taking your eggs, didn't they? What's the price of eggs now? How do you take and prove? Okay, time of seizure. Did they show you a warrant? Did they show you a court order? That's all you have to do. If one was produced, I never seen it. It was net. And here's the thing: if you're in a courtroom, they have to record that on the court record as evidence with a judge's name and a timestamp and everything else that has to go on the record in your case. If it's not in there, it doesn't exist. It also has to be within your CPS agent's logbook to say that a warrant was applied for by CPS to gain entry in the home or gain access to the children. It has to be in their notes. If it's not in those places, it doesn't exist. They can't prove it, because then the burden of proof goes on them. I don't have to prove it. My thing is saying it doesn't exist and they came in and did this stuff. The state's rebuttal is going to be, well, here it is. I never seen it. It was never given to me. I still don't have it to this day. And the only thing that I was given, that's when you save those things, when they turn around and say, hey, they won't give it to me. Or you ask them for a copy of the records or this or that. Or if you have an attorney, your attorney has every right to ask for those records. And you get your attorney to do it. I want a copy of these records. They're not going to know why. You don't have to give them a reason why. I want a copy of this. You have a right to those records. So yes, you could turn around and ask them, where's it at? Show it to me, because I was never shown one. I was never shown anything. There's people on TikTok now all over the place. Kids are coming in, no court order, no this, no that. Even there's a couple advocates that are out there speaking up about a lot of things down in Texas and Oklahoma, this and that. What right did you have to come in and steal a child? Now here, I'm going to say something and keep it for this group, and this is 100%. I'm not suggesting it. I'm going to give you a what if or a shoulda, coulda. For example, let's say CPS worker, one or two of them, walk in your home, force their way into your home. No warrant. So they just have a case. They have this, and that. You use your Second Amendment and your castle doctrine of your particular place, and you will say expedite things to a meeting with the creator himself. One thing they're going to have to prove is, was there an emergency? Because if there was an emergency, the first article that you'll have to know this, the first article is they should have stopped and called for law enforcement for backup. They didn't. There's no record. Is there a record of them calling in that there was an emergency? No. Okay, now you're in criminal court. This is completely different. They used their identities to force their way into my home. I didn't receive a warrant. There's no, Your Honor, you turn around and tell the cops, I wasn't shown a warrant. These were two people that had, particular things. I don't know if they were fabricated and pushed their way in the home. I protected my home and my family. I felt that they were under threat. They said that they were here for children. I have a legal right to defend myself in my own home under the Fourth Amendment. What are you going to do? Unless they can produce a warrant or say there was an extenuating stance or emergency using that same case law, I'm sorry, it's self-defense. That's breaking and entering. There's no two ways around it. They can paint it any way they want, but let's put it, that's the razor's edge that they are putting people on. If they knew about it in the wrong place, trust me, you would proceed differently, and these people wouldn't walk in the way that they do. They'd walk on eggshells. And there's even one state that is known for having some guns and being in the middle of nowhere that actually educates their people. If you feel like you're going to get caught up, you best call the cops, because you're going to get shot and they ain't going to find you. Caseworkers' notes can be found from if you have an attorney, they are required to turn that over under the discovery law, which is everything there. If they have not done it under discovery, then that is contempt of court or tampering with evidence. Actually, that's a tampering with evidence form, because you are entitled to that as well as the other. Well, if you never saw one and they can't prove that it was produced, darling, then I would definitely take Jennifer and definitely tell you I would file on them. That would go on this case. I had somebody enter my home without a warrant and steal and kidnap my children with no court order or no warrant, question me and my children on private property. And basically then I went through a court case that I didn't have a jury. You've got them pent up on so many criminal charges right then and there. Just by that there, you can take that to any federal attorney or constitutional attorney, I would say, and actually file it, and using those case laws, because they are valid. They have to meet those. But most attorneys, well, let me do some research. When you give them the information and go, this applies and it's happening in other states, once the greedy little bastards realize what's happening, they're going to jump on the train of, all of a sudden we know these case laws and everything. If this has happened to you with CPS, call us today at 1-800. That's just what they do. And all they're taking out is all the small fish that were working on the state funds, because I'm sure they'll work out a way to turn around and sue your previous attorney for what? You didn't do your job as an attorney and protect my fucking rights. That's what. Now it's open season on everybody. Yeah, it can go that far. Depends on your federal attorney and how far you want to push and how well educated you are. Why? He failed to do his job. I paid him to perform a job, and he or she did not take and perform those jobs. He didn't stand up for my constitutional rights, nor did he notify the court. He was insufficient when he did. And if he comes back, well, I was never taught, well, then he needs to go back. That gives them a chance to recoup some things, because he can go back and sue the school, or he can sue the bar associate. Why didn't you take and do this? See, the point is you get the house to collapse in on itself, and everybody pointing fingers, and it'll collapse within on itself. Why? Because nobody wants to get in trouble, and everybody wants to play the blame game. You're not talking about one or two people taking a fall. You're talking about it going all the way up the ladder. I was trained that way. I was done this way. And this was my supervisor's name that said we had to do, and we were trained this way. It goes up the ladder, because you ought to understand these caseworkers are not paid hardly jack. And when they're paid what they're paid, you realize what you're getting ready to face is you're going to be in jail with charges and money that you're going to owe, as well as everybody suing you into oblivion. So by the time, if you get out of jail and you're not executed for treason, because that's up to them to do, they can do prison or they can do execution by 5 different ways. You got to understand, if that stuff there, that they're going to be scared shitless. You talk about somebody snitching. Oh, them caseworkers will snitch like crazy. They'll be lining up. Just let me go. Can I plead to a lesser charge if I testify against them? All of a sudden, you have the system testifying against the system. Trust me, they'll do it. Because you think some little 20-year-old or 26-year-old, most of them are in their late 20s, maybe early 30s, and most of them don't even have kids. Am I wrong? I mean, what was the ages you guys were dealing with out there? I mean, were they older, younger? Because I'm seeing a pattern over here of a lot of people, it's a lot younger people. Or you get people over here, if they're getting to make those decisions as far as what's clean, what's not, and this and that, depends on what kind of house they grew up on. What is your measuring stick? There's the other thing. Or you have some people that grow up and you have a caseworker. I seen one that had 20 different colors of hair, and you could tell that she was something. As well as a guy that just looked like he was on the wrong side of that badge, in my opinion, once again. But this is just kind of creepy of why are these people that don't actively have their own biological children, they don't, getting to make cases on what somebody that has a family does. Somebody please explain that to me, because that's awfully biased. What your ideals are versus the real world. Because trust me, as a parent, there's a big difference between having kids and not having kids. That's the real world. Real fast. That'll make you grow up real fast, or at least it should. But there's a police report. My infant grandson committed perjury. The court to take him away and deny me. California. Okay. Catherine, one thing you're going to have to find out is the state you have and the state they are in, whether or not grandparents are considered to have parental rights of any sort. If they took it from there, yes, they're supposed to, by law, do a kinship that's supposed to go to the nearest family member. But once again, that doesn't make money. The second thing off is usually when they do a kinship, the first thing they want to do to the new people that want to place the house. Oh, here's a good one. You're going to love this. Even with your family members, when they're placed with them, they come in and did that inspection. They have a warrant to come into that house? Bet they didn't. You need a warrant to enter every home, including those other. The only ones you don't have to is a facility in a private home setting, even with foster people that volunteer for foster. They can tell them no, and they can't deny them foster parents to living at the living situation. You can't come in my home without a warrant. And you can't deny me the fact of anything else from it. Why? Because it's illegal, but they do it. Now you realize, even if your kin have taken in your kids and entered your home like that, you realize that they now have a case too. Amar, if they've caught you out in public, one, unless they have a court order or anything else, you're in public and you have a right to defend yourself in public. Same thing. If they force themselves on there, caught you in a public corner or anything else, you have a right to leave. Anything else is called hostage taking. And you have a right to defend yourself 100%. And there's tons of federal case. Trust me, I've looked at, before I say some of the things I say, I've looked at the federal case law and can look at it and tell you there's federal case law that's called self-defense. That's called your ambush, and that's called hostage taking. That's a public display of terrorism, especially if you've dealt with that in corner of the family. We're here to steal your kid. Where's your quarter? We don't care. And they bring the cops when we're taking that kid today. I hate to tell you, without that court order or without that warrant of possession, I don't care if a cop's there or not. Technically, you could exercise your right to self-defense in defending your child because there was no court order, and it will stand up in court. Because unless they can produce it, they can't. And that goes, understand that when you get to that point, it ain't just the judge, it's the whole jury. Because in your office can look at this one and go, so you went up, stole these children with no court order or anything else, and he defended himself and his family and basically exercised his right of protection. And now all of a sudden we got a problem because those are there and they're there and they have their kids. Uh-huh. But you're trying to put him on trial for murder. Uh-huh. What did he do wrong? Defended his family. There's no legal thing. Once again, when it comes to rubber meets the road, show me the legal documentation you can do what you were able to do. You can't, because it doesn't exist. Then it comes down to that. And that's a whole different thing. You have to prove to a panel of 12. And they're pretty well educated that if you don't have a warrant and you specify it with federal case law with no warrant, you don't get to do anything. Case dismissed. They may try and push it, but by the time rubber meets the road, they don't stand a chance. Then the first thing they'll do is they'll start talking plea deal. Listen, you took and did this and this and that, defended this, and you ended up, 4 different people, including a police officer. There was a big thing. Well, they shouldn't have broke the fucking law. I don't care who the fuck they work for. So, like I said, that's the biggest thing, for that there. Guys, I appreciate everything. Send me those emails. I'm seeing some of them come in here now. Let me double check, make sure that I've got them. I've got Jennifer and Stephanie Miller are the only 2 that I have received so far. And I'm sure you guys can see me. Yeah, those are the only 2 I've received so far. So if you guys want that evidence actually going to you, guys, I'm not kidding. Police report and stacks of notes. When I gave my name, they snatched it back, said I wasn't allowed to have it because I'm not the victim. Okay, Amar, if you're involved anywhere in the case or you're the parent or anything else, you do have a right, and you actually go in there and tell them, you say, you will produce these documents for me because I have a right as parents under the Constitution to take and do this, as well as the state's constitution that defers back to, because you got to understand, every state's constitution defers back to the original constitution that says in it that they won't, every state's in violation right now of their own constitution. Right now, just due to the fact that it says it defers back to that basically the Constitution is the ultimate law of the land and they will follow and abide anything that's in the Constitution. That's a fucking lie. Because now you violated not only the federal constitution, you violated your own state's constitution. That's where we're going after everybody, even on their own. You realize you violated your own state's constitution when you violated the Constitution, because you took it upon yourself with this and that. So yeah, but like I said, the big thing is we need people. Okay. Listen, guys, I'm going to jump off here. Dallas just sent me something. I think he's live here. We kind of do this small. So if you guys want to jump on that, we're going to share some of that information. We're going to be doing it all weekend. That's where you want to go. Guys, appreciate it. We'll see you over there in Dallas is live. Have a great evening.